Welcome to the Dungeon Brew Coffee Tavern, where every cup tells a story, and every story starts with a sip. Join us on a journey of adventure, camaraderie, and of course, the finest brews, served hot and steeped in mystery. From dragons to ancient legends, we're brewing up more than just coffee. Today's tale begins behind the comfort of the tavern's familiar setting, where something new is simmering beneath the surface. Nyved, the spicy red and gold baby dragon, has been experimenting with some ancient and exotic spices, hoping to create a new flavor for Dungeon Brew's growing menu. However, what he doesn't know is that his culinary concoction may just unleash something beyond flavor. Now, grab your mug, settle in, and get ready for the next chapter in our brewing saga. Episode 13: Spice of the Fiery Dragon. Morning stretched into the afternoon at Dungeon Brew Tavern, and the tavern was alive with the comforting clinks and hums of another busy day. Between the clattering of mugs and the chatter of patrons, Nyved was hard at work in the back, his scales glinting in the flickering light as he focused on an experiment of his own. Nyved was a baby red dragon with scales that shimmered like flames, golden undertones dancing beneath the red. While Java handled the coffee brews, Nyved had taken it upon himself to master the art of spice. Today, he had a new plan, one he hoped would earn him a reputation as the hottest thing in Dungeon Brew, a spicy hot sauce called Dragon's Breath. In the back of the storeroom, he'd gathered a mix of magical ingredients from the ancient supply shelves, bits of fire crystal, dried inferno peppers, and a touch of powdered salamander flame. Nyved set the cauldron over the hearth, his eyes narrowing as he measured each ingredient with the precision of an alchemist. He added a dash of dragon pepper extract and watched it bubble.
Perfect. This is going to be legendary.
Suddenly, a small shadow fell over his cauldron. Nyved looked up to see Java peeking over the edge of the cauldron, his golden green eyes wide with curiosity as he sniffed the bubbling mixture.
Wow, Nyved. That smells intense. What is it?
Dragon's Breath hot sauce. The hottest hot sauce this side of the Mystic Mountains. It'll put some fire in your belly, or maybe burn your tongue off. Either way, people are going to remember it.
That's awesome. Can I try a little?
Only if you want your scales to start smoking, little coffee bean.
Nyved snorted a small puff of smoke, his blue eyes narrowing in mock warning. Java laughed, but backed up a step. Nyved continued, stirring the cauldron with a wooden spoon.
Don't worry, though. I'll tone it down a bit before the customers try it. Don't want to scare anyone off, just leave them with a nice, fiery kick.
Just then, a quiet cough sounded from the doorway. Patches, the calico healer catfolk, was watching them with her calm, measured gaze. She'd appeared so silently that neither of them had noticed her approach.
That's quite a potent brew you're making, Nyved. Do you know what you're dealing with here?
This is Dragon's Breath, Patches. It's going to be the talk of the tavern.
I'm sure it will be. But I can sense the heat from here. You're not using just any ingredients, are you?
Only the best. I've got a bit of inferno pepper, salamander flame powder, and
fire crystal. I can feel its energy from here. Be careful with that, Nyved. Fear crystals are potent. Too much, and you might find yourself summoning more than just a spicy sauce.
Summon? Like magic? And more spirits?
Very likely. This tavern holds a lot of ancient magic. Sometimes, if you're not careful, mixing certain ingredients can call forth unexpected guests.
oh, come on. It's just a bit of spice. What's the worst that could happen?
But as he said it, the cauldron gave a sudden, ominous gurgle, and a fiery plume of smoke shot up from its depths, filling the room with the scent of charred spices and a strange, lingering heat that clung to the walls. The tavern seemed to shiver, as if the very stones could sense the potent magic in the air. Before anyone could react, the fire in the cauldron blazed up and then flickered out, leaving behind a strange silence.
Was that supposed to happen?
Java edged closer to Patches. Nyved blinked, a hint of uncertainty creeping into his usual bravado.
Of course. Just, testing the heat levels.
But as he spoke, the faint echo of a growl seemed to rise from the cauldron, low and rumbling, like the distant sound of thunder. Patch's ears flattened slightly.
Nyved, I think you may have done more than just cook up a spicy sauce.
Just then, Bradicus strode in, grinning from ear to ear, completely oblivious to the tension in the room. He clapped Nyved on the back as he spoke.
What's all this about a new creation, eh? Smells like fire and adventure.
Just a little dragon's breath hot sauce, Bradicus. Nothing we can't handle.
But as Bradicus moved closer to the cauldron, he paused, his grin fading as he looked into the bubbling mixture. The red liquid within seemed to pulse, sending small waves of heat radiating through the air, and Bradicus's usually jolly expression grew serious.
Well now, isn't that interesting? This isn't just any sauce, is it? I can feel the power in this concoction.
Nyved gulped, but before he could reply, the mixture in the cauldron gave another ominous gurgle. Suddenly, a burst of flame shot up, spiraling into the air and forming the faint outline of a fiery dragon, a spirit conjured from the fiery ingredients within. For a moment, it hovered above them, flickering and crackling, its eyes glowing with an intense heat. Then, with a final roar, it dissolved into a cloud of embers, leaving the room silent once more. Java's mouth hung open, his eyes wide with awe. Patches, however, did not look impressed. She gave Nyved a stern look. Nyved scratched the back of his neck, sheepish but unrepentant.
That was amazing.
This is why I told you to be careful. Ancient ingredients can bring ancient spirits. If you're going to work with this kind of magic, you need to treat it with respect.
Okay, maybe I went a little overboard. But come on, did you see that? It was like I conjured a dragon spirit. Imagine what I could do with a few more fire crystals.
That's the spirit, lad. Nothing wrong with a bit of fiery ambition. Just don't burn the tavern down in the process, all right?
I think your dragon's breath hot sauce is officially legendary. But maybe next time, we can start with something a little less volatile?
Fine. I'll tone it down a bit. But you can't deny this is going to be the spiciest, most unforgettable brew we've ever served.
Nyved gave a reluctant nod, still gazing at the cauldron with a hint of pride. As the friends shared a laugh, the strange heat from the cauldron slowly faded, leaving only a faint, spicy scent lingering in the air. But in the back of his mind, Nyved couldn't help but feel a thrill of excitement. He'd tasted the power within the tavern, and he knew this was just the beginning. Some time passed. The scent of roasting meat and simmering vegetables filled the tavern, mingling with the ever-present aroma of fresh brewed coffee. Nyved perched on the counter, tail flicking excitedly as he surveyed his latest culinary experiment, a bubbling cauldron of thick, hearty stew. The base was rich and savory, but it was missing something. Something bold. Something fiery. With a gleeful flick of his claws, Nyved produced a small vial from his spice pouch, a deep red sauce that shimmered faintly in the light. He muttered to himself, tipping the vial carefully over the stew. The thick liquid dripped into the pot, sending up a wisp of steam infused with the scent of roasted peppers, garlic, and a hint of something ancient and wild. Bradicus leaned over the pot, inhaling deeply. Java, balanced on a nearby shelf, sniffed at the air and sneezed.
That smells like adventure. Or disaster. Hard to say which.
Too strong.
Nonsense. This is perfection. A proper dish needs balance, flavor, heat, depth. This will warm the soul and put fire in your belly.
He ladled out a spoonful and blew on it before offering a taste to Bradicus. The warrior monk hesitated.
This isn't one of those sauces that'll make me see visions of my ancestors, is it?
Only if your ancestors liked a bit of spice.
Oh. Oh ho. That's got a kick. But it's good.
He pounded his chest, then grabbed a hunk of bread and shoved it into his mouth as Patches appeared, peering into the pot.
You didn't overdo it again, did you?
Overdue? No! This is my finest batch yet. A dragon's ember stew. Perfect for a crisp evening. And this, Nyved's Inferno Blaze. Not just heat, but flavor.
He gestured to a plate where he had arranged roasted meats drizzled with a tangy orange sauce, alongside fresh bread for dipping. Java, still skeptical, slumped down and dipped a single claw into the glaze before giving it a cautious lick. His golden green eyes widened, and his tail wiggled. Fate's scold appeared in the doorway, watching the scene with her usual calm.
It's spicy, but kinda nice.
You're playing with ancient fires, little one. Some flavors have power beyond taste.
Then I suppose we'd better learn to wield it properly.
As the tavern filled with the rich scent of fire-kissed dishes, Nyved knew one thing for certain: Dungeon Brew Tavern was about to become famous for more than just its coffee. The tavern buzzed with warmth, the scent of charred peppers and slow-simmered spices thick in the air. The long wooden table near the hearth was set with steaming bowls of dragon's ember stew and slices of roasted meat glazed in Nyved's inferno of the clove sauce. The fiery spice dragon himself sat proudly at the center, his wings flicking with excitement as he watched the first bites taken. Java, perched on a shelf with his tiny claws wrapped around a hunk of bread, sniffed at his stew cautiously before taking a bite. His golden green eyes widened.
Warm. It's like a hug, but spicy.
Bradicus, on the other hand, had already dug in. His first spoonful had been met with a sharp inhale, then a slow nod of appreciation. Patches was more cautious. She had witnessed Nyved's previous experiments, some of which had left Bradicus hiccuping flames for an entire afternoon. She took a measured sip, letting the heat settle on her tongue before nodding approvingly.
This'll wake you up faster than a battle horn at dawn. It's got just the right amount of fire.
It balanced. I'm impressed.
Of course. I am a master of spice, after all.
Fate's scold watched them all from her usual seat in the corner, a cup of black coffee in her hand. Her gaze was distant, thoughtful.
Flames can warm or destroy. It depends on the hand that wields them.
Good thing my claws are steady. This is just the beginning. Imagine Dungeon Brew Tavern famous for both its brews and its feasts. A place where food isn't just eaten, it's experienced.
He dipped a claw into his inferno sauce and drizzled a bit more over his stew. The tavern door creaked open, a blast of crisp evening air swirling inside. A figure stepped in, an old traveler wrapped in a thick cloak, his face half hidden by a scarf. He sniffed at the air and let out a low chuckle.
That smells like dragon fire.
Now, we have a brief break to hear a word from our sponsor.
In the heart of every great quest, there's a hero. And behind every hero, there's their morning brew. At Dungeon Brew Coffee, we craft bold blends for adventurers like you. From the depths of dark roasted caverns to the peaks of spiced mountains, every sip fuels your next move.
Don't forget, it's dragon approved.
Thank you for that reminder, Java. Whether you're battling spreadsheets, chasing dreams, or simply savoring life, Dungeon Brew Coffee is your trusted companion. Unleash the flavor. Conquer your day. Visit us online or in the heart of your favorite adventure. Dungeon Brew Coffee, where legends begin. That smells like dragon fire.
It is dragon fire. Well, in sauce form, care for a taste?
The traveler hesitated, then stepped forward and took a seat. Bradicus slid him a bowl. The old man took a slow bite, chewing thoughtfully. The room fell silent, waiting. Finally, he set his spoon down and let out a satisfied sigh.
Young dragon, this is the first meal I've had in years that reminds me of home.
Home? Where's that?
Far from here, over in the Shire of the Harvest Fair. But I'll tell you this, there are those who would pay handsomely for food like this, and there are those who would seek to control it.
Power comes in many forms, even in the meals we serve.
Fate's fingers tightened slightly around her cup. Java, licking a bit of sauce off his snout, blinked between them.
Why do I feel like we just got involved in something big?
Outside, the wind howled. And deep within the bones of Dungeon Brew Tavern, something stirred. The tavern settled into a quiet hum after the last bowls were scraped clean and the warmth of Nyved's dragon's ember stew lingered in everyone's bellies. The old traveler sat with his hands wrapped around a mug of spiced cider, his eyes half-lidded but alert, as if he were weighing whether to speak further. The fire crackled, shadows dancing along the wooden beams of Dungeon Brew Tavern. Nyved shifted, his tail twitching. He wasn't one for patience. His claws tapped against the table.
All right, old-timer, you've got that look like you know something we don't. What's this about controlling my food?
It's not just about your food, little dragon. It's about flavor. Spices, ingredients, things with history, with magic. Some are lost, some hidden, and some locked away by those who fear their power.
Wait, like legendary ingredients?
Exactly. And judging by the taste of that stew, I'd wager you've stumbled onto something rare. Do you know where your ingredients come from?
I make my sauces. I blend my own spices. I don't need to know where they came from to make them good.
He's asking if you know their true origins, Nyved. The magic behind them.
Nyved blinked, his wings twitching. He opened his mouth to say something, but then hesitated. Truth be told, he had found some of his ingredients in unexpected places: the deep spice market run by the foxfolk in the valley, the bundle of dried peppers gifted to him by a wandering bard, the strange, golden powder he'd discovered tucked away in their secret, infinite pantry.
There was once a spice known as sovereign fire, said to be harvested from the first embers of a dragon's breath. A spice so potent it could warm a frozen heart, or burn a kingdom to the ground.
Sounds like something we don't want falling into the wrong hands.
And you think Nyved's found some?
I think he's on the path to something much bigger. And if you're not careful, others will come looking for it too.
A heavy silence fell over the group. The only sound was the shifting of logs in the hearth, sending a cascade of sparks into the air. Then Java, ever the optimist, raised a paw as if waiting to be called upon. However, he spoke without waiting.
So, does this mean we're about to go on a spice-finding adventure?
It means we should be cautious.
Legendary spices, lost magic, and a chance to prove my cooking is the best in any realm? Sounds like a challenge to me.
Then you'd best be ready, little dragon. Because once you start down this path, there's no turning back.
Outside, the wind howled against the tavern walls, and somewhere beyond the firelight, unseen eyes watched Dungeon Brew with interest. A low, rhythmic thud, 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 rattled the mugs on the shelves. The floorboards trembled with each impact. Java's ears perked up first, his tail fluffing. Bradicus raised a thick brow.
Either the tavern's had too much spice and is about to explode, or we've got a visitor.
Nyved turned toward the door just as it burst open. A gust of cold wind rushed in, swirling the embers in the hearth. Framed against the night sky stood a massive, familiar figure. A towering ogre, wrapped in a heavy fur cloak, ducked through the doorway. His deep-set eyes, the color of strong espresso, scanned the room until they landed on the steaming coffee pot behind the counter.
Small beans. You have coffee, yes?
Burly! You're back!
The ogre, known as Burly, both for his immense size and his oddly refined appreciation of coffee, stomped toward the bar and plopped onto the oversized bench that had been reinforced just for him. The bench groaned under his weight. Patches, still cautious from the conversation with the traveler, narrowed her eyes.
You don't usually come this late.
Burly grabbed the largest mug Java could find and gulped down the steaming black brew without hesitation. The tension in his massive shoulders eased, but his thick brows remained furrowed. He set the mug down with a thunk and leaned forward.
Big trouble coming. Word travels fast. Someone looking for fire spices. Someone who does not like sharing.
You mean my amazing spices? Can't blame them. Who's asking?
Strange one. Wears dark cloak. Smells like old ash. Talks soft, but words burn. Asked about you.
The tavern went silent. Even the fire seemed to hush, its crackling subdued. Fate, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke.
You said their words burned?
Not fire outside. Fire inside. Like words could scorch the bones. They say you, Spice Dragon, have spice that belongs to them. That you should give it back before it's taken.
Well, that's not ominous at all.
What did you tell them?
Told them no one takes from Dungeon Brew Tavern. Told them to try, see how that ends.
Yeah. Good luck to them.
Nyved, however, wasn't laughing. His claws flexed slightly against the table. He thought back to the golden spice tucked away in the pantry, one he hadn't even used yet. Had he really stumbled onto something that rare?
We need to be careful.
Careful, yes, but also ready, because they are coming. And why I come?
The fire flared suddenly, casting long shadows across the tavern walls. And for just a moment, those shadows seemed to flicker unnaturally, stretching toward Nyved like grasping fingers. The fire crackled in uneasy silence, its flickering light casting shifting shadows along the tavern walls. Nyved felt the weight of Burley's warning settle in his chest like a stone. Someone was looking for his spices. Someone dangerous. Patches tapped her claws against the counter, breaking the silence.
All right. Let's assume this shadowy spice thief isn't just some jealous chef looking to steal your recipes, Nyved. What do we actually know?
Nyved flicked his tail, his confidence not entirely shaken, but not entirely intact either. His bright blue eyes darted to the pantry door, where the small vial of shimmering powder had last been seen hidden among sacks of flour and dried herbs.
Not much. I've been using the spices I collected, but I haven't touched one yet. Maybe it's more special than I thought?
Magic leaves traces. If this spice is powerful enough to attract someone like that, we should test it.
Oh! We should mix it into something tasty. A battle stew.
Or maybe not immediately eat the possibly cursed spice, my overcaffeinated friend.
I do not like this feeling. Smells like trouble.
His massive fingers wrapped around his mug and he sniffed the air for emphasis, his nostrils flaring. Then, he froze. The ogre's eyes locked onto the fire. A low, whispering sound curled through the room, barely perceptible over the crackling flames. At first, it was easy to dismiss as the shifting of wood, but then the words became clearer, hissing, murmuring in a tongue ancient and sharp.
That's not the wind.
Patches unsheathed her claws, her ears swiveling. The shadows along the tavern's edges seemed thicker than before. Nyved's throat went dry. He knew, instinctively, that the whispers weren't coming from the fire itself, but from the thing that had noticed him. The thing that was searching for his spice. Fate touched the runes on her sleeve. Burley stood, his great frame blocking the firelight. His voice was a low growl.
I will stand with you, small beans. Both of you.
We need to prepare. If they're coming, they won't stop at words.
Good. I was getting bored.
Nyved inhaled deeply, his stomach churning. He didn't know what was coming. But as the fire whispered warnings in an unknown tongue, he knew one thing for certain. Whatever was after his spices wasn't human. And it wasn't friendly. The fire snapped violently, sending a plume of sparks into the air. The whispers twisted into a guttural growl, deep and resonant, shaking the very foundation of Dungeon Brew. The room darkened, not because the flames had dimmed, but because the shadows had thickened, creeping across the walls like living things. Then, the door slid open. A gust of cold night air rushed in, followed by a figure that barely fit through the doorway. Towering and broad-shouldered, with gray skin like cracked stone and tusks protruding from its lower jaw, the newcomer exuded raw power. Chains adorned its arms, some snapped and hanging loose, while a thick cloak covered most of its bulk. But it was the eyes that froze Nyved in place. They burned, not with fire, but with a dull ember glow, as if something ancient smoldered beneath the surface.
Trollborn. Not just an ogre, something worse.
The spice. Give it to me.
The creature stepped forward, sniffing the air like a predator catching scent of its prey. Nyved swallowed, his wings pressing against his back.
Which one? I have a lot of spices.
Do not play games, little flame. I seek the golden spice. The one that binds to fire.
Who sent you?
I smell it on you. You used it.
The Trollborn had ignored fate, its gaze locked onto Nyved. Nyved's mind raced. He hadn't used the golden spice, had he? Maybe a trace had mixed into something without him realizing. Java stood by his friend's side, his golden green eyes narrow and tail flicking.
If you think you can just stomp in here and take what you want, you've got another thing coming.
About time we had a bar fight.
The Trollborn exhaled sharply, then lunged. Burley intercepted, slamming his massive forearm into the creature's chest. The impact sent a deep boom through the tavern, but the Trollborn barely staggered. Fate cast her spell, the wings glowing brightly as shimmering threads wove through the air. The shadows in the room recoiled, but the Trollborn wasn't made of shadow. It was real. Bradicus sprang into action, sweeping his leg at the creature's knee, but it barely budged. With a snarl, the Trollborn swung a thick arm at him. Bradicus ducked just in time, the wind from the blow ruffling his beard. Patches leapt onto the bar, claws unsheathed.
Nyved, if there's something special about that spice, figure it out now.
Nyved's pulse pounded. He didn't have time to think, only to act. He darted into the back, toward the secret pantry, Java hot on his heels. If the golden spice was the key, then they had to use it. Behind them, the battle raged, the clash of strength and magic shaking the tavern's very soul. And in the fire, the whispers grew louder. Nyved sprinted toward the back storeroom, his claws scraping against the wooden floor. Java was right behind him, his little wings flapping wildly as they darted through the doorway into the hidden chamber beyond. The air inside was thick with the scent of every spice, herb, and blend imaginable, a swirl of aromas from across time and space. The pantry, bound by ancient magic, stretched impossibly far, its shelves shifting like a living thing. Nyved skidded to a stop, chest heaving.
All right, pantry, I need something to stop a Trollborn. Something strong.
The shelves trembled. A low hum vibrated through the air as unseen forces stirred. Then, something fell. A small, unmarked clay jar tumbled from a high shelf, landing with a soft thud in front of Nyved's claws. He blinked, hesitating only for a moment before snatching it up. The jar was warm, too warm. Heat pulsed from within, as if it contained a living ember. Java sniffed at it.
What is it?
Nyved didn't know, but he had no time to question the gift of the pantry. He clenched the jar tight and turned back toward the battle. The tavern was chaos. Bradicus was locked in a grapple with the Trollborn, his muscles straining as he held back the brute's massive fists. Patches darted around the battlefield, using every ounce of her agility to keep the others from getting crushed. Fate's spells burned bright, casting eerie shadows across the walls as she tried to bind the creature in place. Burley had been knocked backward, shaking off the impact with a groan. The Trollborn, however, was relentless. It stumped forward, its ember-like eyes locked onto Nyved as soon as he re-entered the room.
You have it. Give it to me.
Nyved didn't hesitate. He popped open the jar, and the heat exploded outward. A wave of golden fire surged from the container, swirling around Nyved like a living storm. His scales shimmered, his red and gold coloring deepening as if freshly forged in dragon fire. He could feel it, the spice of ancient fire. The Trollborn lunged. Nyved reared back and hurled the jar's contents forward. A brilliant burst of flame erupted, but this was no ordinary fire. The moment it touched the Trollborn's skin, the flames didn't burn, they sealed. The brute howled as golden embers wove through its body, locking its limbs in place. Ancient runes ignited across its chest and arms, binding it in fiery chains. It struggled, but the magic was stronger. Nyved's breath came fast. His wings twitched as the realization hit, this wasn't just a spice. It was a binding fire, a force meant to contain creatures like the Trollborn. The flames coiled tighter, pulling the brute down to its knees. Its voice rumbled like distant thunder.
You do not understand what you awakened.
We'll take our chances.
With a final whoosh, the flames consumed the last of the shadows lingering in the tavern. The Trollborn let out one last guttural growl before vanishing in a surge of golden light, leaving behind only the faint scent of scorched spice. Silence fell over Dungeon Brew Tavern. Nyved slumped, panting and looking at the empty jar in his claws.
Okay. That was awesome!
Let's never do that again.
That was a proper brawl.
I'm going to be cleaning up fire damage for weeks.
She flicked her tail, eyeing the scorched floor. Fate, however, didn't look relieved. She gazed at the spot where the trollborn had vanished, her brow furrowed in thought.
We didn't defeat it. We sealed it.
So it's coming back.
Fate didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked toward Nyved, her eyes dark with something unreadable.
You used a power lost to time. And that means someone, or something, is going to notice.
A chill ran down Nyved's spine, despite the lingering warmth of the spice still in his veins. The fight was over. But something told him it was just a matter of time. The fire is low, the mugs are empty, and tonight's tale has come to an end. But the journey is far from over. Thank you for gathering with us at Dungeon Brew Coffee Tavern, where adventure brews with every sip. Join us next time as new challenges arise, mysteries deepen, and the magic of the tavern unfolds. If you enjoyed this taste of adventure, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell so you never miss a new episode. We'll save a seat for you at the tavern. See you soon.